Next year, Nigerians will elect new leaders to pilot their affairs for the next 4 years. While the country still struggles to entrench true federalism and reap the dividends of democracy, several attempts have been made by successive governments to take governance to the people, with the most recent one being the National Confab and call for restructuring. While some believe this will address majority of the problems threatening the country's growth and unity, others, such as the former presidential candidate of Fresh Democratic Party, Reverend Chris Okoti, are suggesting a more clinical approach, such as the complete scrapping of the National Assembly, among other measures. He will be joining us tonight to shed light on these perspectives and many other issues. Welcome to the program, Reverend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yeah. Good. Viewers, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm your host, Hamza Idris. We will take a short break, and when we return, the discussion of the day commences. Don't go away.
That's great. You can see.
Welcome back. In today's program, we have Reverend Okoti, who joins us via Zoom from Lagos. We are happy having you, Reverend.
Thank you.
Yes, I will start by asking you this simple question. Why are you not on the ballot for the 2023 elections?
Well, I've made it abundantly clear that I'm not seeking a political career with a view to some sense of self-aggrandizement, because that would take us nowhere. I've often said that the whole political concept that we have applied in this democratic constitution is faulty at initial, and therefore the platform that I stood upon to believe and articulate this concept has just been to provide the tribune for me to make the necessary contribution so that we can strengthen our nation within the challenges of the 21st century. I do not believe that the forthcoming election will give any dividends to democracy. I do not think that it will change the status quo. I think that it's only security and the.
Yes, Reverend, and has anything changed between the time you were vying for election? Because I remember you vied for the presidency in 2003. You did it again in 2007. You were on the ballot in 2011. Has anything changed between then and now?
In terms of the political climate.
Yes.
What I have is that this journey has continued, and if you observe the trajectory of our political system, you will discover that it takes us nowhere. The APC and the PDP, that are the dominant political parties, that continue to engender a status quo that is inimical and subversive to the Nigerian cause. And therefore, if we are saying that we want peace, harmony, and a certain collective commonality that would engender unity in our nation, we must try another system. That is why I'm asking for an interim government that will introduce what I call aboriginal democracy as a mechanism for the sustenance of our democracy and our unity as a corporate nation.
Yes. Well, before we get to your new innovation, this issue of Aboriginal democracy, what are the facts? What discouraged you from actually giving another chance? I mean, trying again to see whether you will make it to the presidency.
I've often said that the presidential system of governance, Nigeria's second attempt at democratizing the elected process, has failed us woefully. It has become inimical to the Nigerian cause. It is a total distraction. It has polarized the polity. It has balkanized the Nigerian society. It has fractured the whole confederacy of the Nigerian Brotherhood. It has elevated corruption to an institution of Byzantine complexity and must of necessity be jettisoned from the boat of national progress. We cannot continue a system that is diametrically opposed to the yearnings and the aspirations of the Nigerian people. And that is why it became necessary for me to bring forth this system and create an innovation in the democratic space for the necessary change that will lead to our nation becoming what it's supposed to be.
And the recent statement you made, which actually took many people off guard, both in Nigeria and outside the country, is your call for interim government. Why interim government at this time?
Number one, that is the only medium through which we can rectify the problems. You see, an interim government is like a surgical theater where you correct the aberrations and the abnormalities that have plagued our nation as a democratic nation. I am simply saying that all the comforts we've had in the past did not amount to anything because no extant government, no subsisting government can make the necessary change. And that is why we need an interim government as a forum that will bring all of our people together, that will create a rapprochement for all of our federating units to come together to decide, first and foremost, that our constitution is terminological inexactitude because it's not a federal constitution. It was Nicodemously contrived and then, it was imposed upon the nation. So if we're going to have an interim government, that's the only forum, that is the only mechanism that will help us to address all of these aberrations and the agitation for secession and all of these things will cease once we can come together as a people and find that national connectivity that will make us do what we're supposed to do so that we can continue to stay together as a nation.
But Reverend, you know that interim government is not actually envisaged in the letters of the Nigerian Constitution. Don't you think any attempt to tilt towards that direction will be a recipe for truncating the democracy as a whole?
Not at all. There's a principle in physics that is called solvitur ambulando. That means as you walk along, you will come to the solution. If you look at the checkered pavement of our political existence, you would know that we've come to a juncture that we must go beyond self-aggrandizement. We must go beyond partisanism. We must go beyond ethnicity and religiosity and come to a place where we recognize that we have a common destiny and that we can translate the paraphernalia of our diversity into the apparatus of national unity. And only an interim government can do that. It is true that there are no specific provisions within the Constitution that would engender that mechanism, but the Constitution was made by men. The Constitution was made for us. We were not made for the Constitution. And when we recognize that Nigeria is sitting on the cusp of a great crisis, then patriots at this time must come together and rewrite what is necessary and redact the Constitution so that we can have an interim government to save Nigeria. Because you must have a Nigeria before you can think about ruling in Nigeria.
Okay, but there is this allegation that you are actually canvassing for interim government because you've tried like 3 times to win the presidency without success, and maybe using the back door to now become the head of the interim government. Why do you think you are the best person in the event it becomes necessary to have it, not any other person?
I'm quite amused. Like I said before, ordinarily I will not nobilitate such political infantility, because it is very clear that you cannot win an election in any nation, including Nigeria, except that you are aligned with the dominant gargantuan political parties whose tentacles, pervade the longitudes and the latitudes of our political spectrum. Why are the flag bearers desirous of becoming flag bearers for APC and PDP? Because they recognize that the party itself is what is going to give them the victory. People don't really vote for personalities, they vote for parties. So I do not subscribe to the view that I've lost any election. I say the political parties that I belong to lost the election because people don't vote for personalities. So I'm saying here, as a Nigerian who's concerned, that the right thing for us to do at this juncture is to find a place where we can have a solution. Now, all of these people who are saying, oh, well, you're trying to do this, I consider them men of low intellectual estates who do not understand that at this point in time we should be thinking nationalism, a pan-Nigerian philosophy that can save our nation. If I wanted a political career, I would have joined the PDP in 2003. At the time I ran for president, some of the names that are touted today had not even been conscious. The concept of leadership had not even registered in the political matrix. So if I was looking for that, I would have joined all of these parties and been at the hierarchy of things. But I'm a patriot, I'm a Nigerian, and I'm looking for that that would protect our common patrimony. And the time has come for us to do the needful, because we've never been at this kind of place. We're in a very, very precarious position today. And that's why I'm saying very clearly that we must have an interim government. And the reason why I'm asking to lead the interim government is because the concept of aboriginal democracy came from me. And you cannot convey that concept to somebody who does not understand it. Once you understand aboriginal democracy, then you'll understand why it is necessary that Okotie would head the interim government.
There are other options to interim government, because when you look at when General Babangida handed over to Chief Ernest Shonekan, he lasted for just few months, because the letters of the Constitution do not make much provision to give the interim leader, the powers to do the right things at the right time. And so before you know it, Abacha took over. So what is your take on this?
I believe that the circumstances are totally different. Completely different.
Okay, the circumstances are different?
Yes, and completely different. And Nigeria is at the verge at the verge of disintegration. The Nigeria of Shonekan's time is totally different from the Nigeria of today. At the time that Shonekan was head of state, we didn't have Boko Haram. We didn't have regional xenophobia like we have today. We didn't have the crisis of security where it has created the circumambience of trepidation in the hearts of Nigerians, where you can't even move from one local government to the next without exercising a measure of security, personal security. The concept of secession that we see today was not there at the time. The federalism that we're practicing had not shown itself to be faulty and as destructive as it is today. See, because time has been able to establish that what we have is a unitary system, not a federalism. Because federalism involves the manipulation of centrifugal and centripetal forces. So all of these things contribute to the fact that we must do something, and we must do it quick, really quick. Because the concept of, the phenomenon of secession that you are seeing all over the nation today, whether it's coming from the Yoruba or from the East, is all a part of the fact that people no longer feel a sense of belonging. And so we must have a rapprochement, a certain mechanism that will draw all of us together as Nigerians who have a common destiny, and we can find a meaningful solution to save our nation before we can talk about leadership. So yes, Shonekan's situation is totally different from what is on ground today.
Okay, you see, one of the things you envisage in your proposal for interim government is the scrapping of the National Assembly. And it is the only arm that actually gives democracy its true name and meaning. Because even during military, you have the judiciary, you have the executive, even if it is military dictatorship. Now, are you not trying to throw away the baby with the bathwater by calling for the scrapping of the National Assembly? Not
at all. Our presidential system is a political trifecta. It's some kind of a a tripartite compartmentalization of governance, where you have the judiciary, you have the legislature, and you have the executive. What I'm proposing is that we take the responsibilities of the legislature and give to professional associations that are already in existence within the polity. We have lawyers banding with lawyers. We have doctors banding with doctors. We have market women banding with market women in what I call the concept of gregarious socialization. They have ties of professional consanguinity, and they maintain an organic nexus by way of enterprise and endeavor. And they are more familiar with the terrain. So instead of establishing an elitist club that we call the legislature, we can take their responsibility and give to these professional organizations who understand their firmament far better than this elitist club. And they will be volunteers. They are not going to be paid. So instead of people representing people, the people represent themselves. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we're not going to have a law-making mechanism or arm of the government. I'm just saying that the legislature, the way it is right now, is inconsistent with our cultural realities and sensibilities. And part of the problems we've had in our governance comes from that arm of government. So if we take that responsibility and give it to these professional organizations, and when there is need for law to be made in their area of specialization, we constitute a forum for them to come together to put their heads together to establish that law. And after that, they are disbanded. It will save us all of the money that the financial burden that we've had to carry as far as that structure is concerned. And so I'm saying that if we're saying that we want to eradicate corruption, the first thing we must look at is eliminating the legislature and then eliminating political parties. Because you don't need political parties to practice democracy. Part of the reason why we have all this godfatherism and all of this juggernaut is because we have political parties, which are some kind of an ingenious expedient. Political parties are not envisaged in the concept of democracy. It's a figment of some consummate political artificer to establish rich men in the positions of authority. Because once you eradicate political parties, then you have a level playing field and anybody can contest for any office. And these are the ramifications that are involved in Aboriginal democracy.
Okay, maybe this is the time for me to ask you what you actually mean by Aboriginal democracy, because I want to link up the definition you will give with more questions on the role of the National Assembly. What is Aboriginal democracy?
All right. Aboriginal democracy simply means taking democracy back to its origins. You must understand, when people say democracy, it has become a redundant political leitmotif, because a lot of people don't even know what that word means. The word democracy derives from the Greek word demokratia. It's a compound word made up of the word demos, which is people, and the word kratos, which is power. There are several Greek words that translate the word power, but the Greeks chose kratos because they wanted a definite understanding and the orientation of that word. So democracy means people power. Demokratia or demos kratos. The PDP Shibboleth, their slogan, power to the people, derives from its Hellenistic application. Now, once you understand that democracy has to do with people, then you begin to question the origin of political parties. Because what we have in Nigeria is government of the party, by the party, for the party. That's partisanism. So all they're interested is partisan considerations, so that the power and the wealth of the nation goes to the party and its apparatchiks. But what we must do in Aboriginal democracy is to allow the people to represent themselves. So you don't have political parties, you don't have ministers, you don't have commissioners. You have the people deciding how they want to be governed by themselves when we create the necessary fora for that. So in elementary terms, it just means that the people take over governance for themselves, as opposed to what the political parties are doing today. It is during an Aboriginal democracy phenomenon that you can have people talk about restructuring.
Yeah. I went through the definition you gave somewhere, where you say it is a government from the people, for the people, and with the people. Then what is the difference between the see definition we have in various dictionaries and even in our constitution that, because here you say you change the definition we are used to by saying that what we have now is government of the party, by the party, and for the party.
For the party.
Yes.
Yes. In original democracy, it will be government from.
You see that when you the classical definition of democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Now I fault that definition. It should be government from. That means it issues from the people. For instance, if a woman has a baby, the child is from the woman, and the child is for the woman, and the child is with the woman as proof of that parentage. So what I'm saying here in our definition is that true democracy or aboriginal democracy will be government that comes from the people, that belongs to the people, and it is demonstrated by the fact that it is with the people. That's different from what we see in Nigeria. What we see in Nigeria is government of the political party that is created for the political party and rests with the political party, not the people. Because once you have a political party away from the people, you have isolated the people. And that is why I'm saying that aboriginal democracy must eliminate political parties. Because political parties take away from the true definition of democracy. Because once, take for instance, because I am not in PDP, I don't have access to certain things. Because I'm not in APC, I do not have access to certain things. See, so the political parties create a demarcation, and they circumscribe the liberties that we have as Nigerians to our collective patrimony. And that is why I'm saying that if we're saying that we're looking for true democracy, then we must begin to look for that which we can tailor according to our cultural sensibilities and realities.
Yeah, but if you now eliminate political parties, if I get what you say right, if you eliminate them, you don't have them, and then you also remove the National Assembly, do you really, can you call that democracy, or you have another definition for it? If you don't have the legislature and you also remove political parties, because it's like you are suggesting that various associations should be empowered, right?
Yes, exactly.
These people are already in the polity. Let me give you a practical example. The Nigerian Union of Teachers was established in 1931, has been the general superintendent, if you would, concerning the area of education. And they're not paid. But they've been taking a certain oversight to make sure that the educational system is at par with international standards. These are committed people. The Nigerian Bar Association was established in 1933. They are not paid, but they've taken cognizance of the legal atmosphere of Nigeria to make sure that the jurisprudence that is practiced here is in line with international conventions. See, the Nigerian Medical Association was established in 1951. They are not paid, but yet they've taken cognizance of what is necessary to keep our nation healthy. These people have demonstrated commitment. And so I'm saying that when the time comes for us to make laws that concern these areas, we should go to these people that have demonstrated that commitment to our nation, pro bono, and ask them to come together and establish laws within the areas of their specialization or their fundaments. That's what democracy is. Now, but if you're saying you have to bring somebody from a local government or from a senatorial to come and talk about medical issues that they know nothing about, as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time. It's tantamount to some illogicality, you know, and some kind of clueless ineptitude. We must understand that we have the capacity to do the right thing. So we don't need these people to come out. How many Nigerians know who their representatives are? They don't know. What we need to let people understand is that we cannot allow everybody to contribute to lawmaking. If you are an association of market women, you have a say in the governance of your nation. If you are an association of pharmacists, you have a say in the governance of your nation. Nothing can be more democratic than an elitist club that does not understand the realities of the day to sit down and begin to pontificate. They don't even understand the dynamics, the polemics, or the dialectics of lawmaking. So if we take that responsibility and give to our people that have shown commitment and they're not even going to be paid, it will be a far more beneficial exercise to us. And it will show that Nigeria is a democratic nation where we allow people to decide what is best for them. That is what democracy is, the will of the people. And you can't be more democratic.
Very interesting. Reverend, I will ask you a question on in what way this proposal of having different associations to form the government will make any difference from the existing structure that we have. But we'll take a short break, and when we return, the program continues. Stay with us.
TV, documenting the
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we have Reverend Chris Okoti from Lagos. He joins us via Zoom, and we are discussing his perspective about democracy in Nigeria. Reverend, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, before we went for the break, you expound on areas you think we can make amendments to give clear representation to the people. But I want to ask, as it exists now, we have thousands of councillors at the local government level. We also have members of House of Assembly representing almost all the local governments, 770 something. We now have members of the House of Reps, hundreds of them. We have around 109 or thereabout senators at the national level. How true representation can it be, besides this structure that we have?
It's just a formality. When these representatives come to Abuja, they are separated into different committees. There are 57 standing committees in the House, in the Senate, and 89 in the House of Reps. And their responsibility usually deals with things like maybe military, education, health. What I'm saying is that we already have professional organizations doing the same thing that have more understanding of these areas than members of the House of Assembly who have just come through a political process. Democracy, it must be clearly understood, is the will of the people. Let me give you a practical example. When President Buhari won in 2019, he pulled just over 15 million votes. Now, if you compare that to the population of Nigeria, you will know that that is not completely democratic. That means not everybody voted. But there is an agreement that whoever has the highest votes becomes the head of state. That is a democratic decision. So even if you vote and you don't vote, as long as somebody wins, even if it's by a margin of 2 or 3, they would head the government, because that's what the people have agreed. What I'm saying is democracy is based on the agreement of the people, the desire of the people. the wishes, the yearnings, the aspirations of the people. And all we need to do is to sit together and decide how we want to be governed, because this present system has not produced the desired results. You and I know so. That is why we must do something while it is still possible before our nation disintegrates. Now, Nigeria's problem is...
Yes, Reverend, you propose, in your summary, in your proposition, you said there is the need to have a new constitution. Now, if you ask Nigerians to discard the existing structure, including the National Assembly, who will come and create the new constitution for us?
What is necessary at this time is for the House of Assembly and the President to be in cahoots as far as the new constitution or the new system that would lead Nigeria to a place of unity is concerned. In the evolution of nations, patriots emerge at different junctures. We're at a juncture now in our political evolution where patriots must come together and look beyond the frontiers of partisanism, of ethnicity and religion, and see Nigeria preeminent above all of these things. That's where we are today. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So we can provoke nationalistic sentiments, not partisan sentiments, so that when we come together and we can evolve a concept that creates that unity, we can say we have a nation. But following the definition, the academic definitions of democracy, as many people have it, is not going to solve the problem, because what we have today is not really democratic. It's just an academic assertion. And I'm saying that because of the crisis, because of the circumstances that we face in our nation today, something has to be done, and it must be done quickly before there is an implosion. And politicians cannot solve the problem. Only leaders, true Nigerians who understand the imperative of having a united Nigeria, can come together at this time and do the needful so we can sustain our democracy and our nation.
Yeah. Okay, Reverend, you also have a take, I'm sure, on restructuring, because it's like a vague term as far as many Nigerians are concerned. Everyone who comes, who wants to grab power, you'll say, okay, I'm going to restructure Nigeria. What is your understanding of restructuring Nigeria?
What it just simply means in layman's terms is that the political configuration that has created the kind of political existence that we have today must be jettisoned. So when you talk about restructuring, you're talking about recreating a certain political configuration that allows all of the federative units to participate. That's why it is supposed to be a federalism. What you have now is a unitary state. And so if you want to have a federalism, then it must be restructured. You must allow the federative units the autonomy that they need in a federal system to decide how their resources will be controlled. You must allow them to participate in governance in different areas that they're desirous of participating in, so that you can engender a wholesome, a holistic approach to federalism. It has several facets to it, but I think that the most important thing here for Nigerians is that we must redefine our configuration. The federalism under whose aegis we coexist is faulty. So it begins with changing the constitution to make it a federal constitution, and then allowing the autonomies of these federation states to be engendered in such a way that they can participate in a federalism without being afraid of being swallowed or in inanization. That's just the basic thing before we can get into all of the nitty-gritty of it. But it's basically just restructuring or redefining this concept of federalism that we have, because that is what is going to lead to the opening up of the system of governance that will allow other states or the federation states to participate in a manner that is wholesome to them.
Okay, Reverend, Between yesterday and today, your stories are all over the media, saying most of the presidential candidates that we have now will not be able to change anything, including the restructuring. Some of them are really using to campaign. Why did you arrive at that they cannot do it?
The problem of Nigeria is not modality. Where modality is requisite knowledge.
Our problem is conditionality, which is the inherent conditional obstructions. Let me give you a salutary pointer. Now, if an experienced pilot who knows how to fly his plane wants to fly, and he understands that the weather conditions are dismal and unfavorable, if the skies are frozen by frost, he cannot fly that aircraft, because to do that will be a journey, it will be a suicidal mission. So though he has the skill, which is the modality, but the conditionalities make it impossible. So what I'm saying that all these people who are talking, I will do this, I will do that, are talking modality. And Nigeria's problem has never been modality. We've had some of the finest economics, economists in this country, beginning from the days of Dr. Pius Okibo, up until even when we had Mrs. Welia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name properly, but what I'm saying is that these are titans in the academia of economic, either economic dissertations or philosophies. Yet our economy has continued to nosedive. Not because they don't understand the concept of economics. Anybody understands simple economics, that demand and supply are the basic, bedrock of any economy. But the thing is that there are conditions within the Constitution that make it impossible. The Constitution that we have has exalted and elevated corruption, like I said, to such a Byzantine complexity, we don't know what to do. The Constitution has so many inherent obstacles. First, it is not a people's constitution, because it was Nicodemously contrived and imposed upon a nation. It's not a people's constitution. So if you're going to be able to say, okay, I want to do this for Nigeria, how are you going to do it within the constraints of a constitution that is impervious to those things? Unless we change those things, unless we restructure, unless we have a true federalism, unless we can allow our people to determine how their resources are going to be controlled, except unless we deal with the issues of tribalism, of ethnicity and religion, there's no way you can galvanize the Nigerian people to a place of unity. And that's why I'm saying that all of these things that you're hearing from the major flag bearers is just political rhetoric, because it cannot achieve what it is supposed to achieve. And what are they going to do that previous flag bearers have not done, that previous presidents have not done? If President Buhari couldn't do it, if President Obasanjo couldn't do it, if President Goodluck Jonathan couldn't do it, what are they going to do?
Okay, but the president, Reverend, he was with King Charles in London, and he told him that Tinubu is really the choice for Nigerians. He has so much trust in him. What is your take on this statement by the president?
That is just partisan affiliation, and I can understand that, because he is APC and Tinubu is APC. So under normal circumstances, he would actually stand for his own candidate. That is part of the partisanism that I'm talking about. And the issue here is not the personalities. It must be understood. You must understand that we're not talking about personalities. We're talking about constitutional constraints. The legitimacy of that which we're doing. And what I'm saying, that whether it is Tinubu, whether it's Atiku, whether it's anybody else, they are not able to carry those promises to their logical conclusion because of the problems inherent in the Constitution. And no extant government, no subsisting government can change the Constitution. It is not possible. We've had that in the past, different confabs that we've had, constitutional, whatever they call them. But they did not achieve anything, because no subsisting government can do anything about it. That is why, if we are truly honest and sincere, we must find a mechanism, and the only that which is possible is an interim government that will take care of all these aberrations. abnormalities within the constitution, set the parameters of our union, create true federalism, so that whoever comes to lead this nation will work in an atmosphere that is conducive. Because the way it is now, we're just going to go back to square one. It's a waste of time and energy. And if you will have observed that a lot of the young people are beginning to participate in the political process. And I'm saying to those young people, if you are listening to me, you are desiring change. But change is an impossibility within the confines of our constitution. It is an impossibility. It's not because Mr. So or Chief So does not have the capacity. It's because there are inherent conditionalities that must be dealt with before you can see or observe true change. And if we're going to have that change, then you must lend your voice to an interim government, because that is the only place where we can get ourselves together, establish the terms of our union, and then create an enabling environment for leadership. Anything else, as far as I'm concerned, is clueless ineptitude, is mindless illogicality, and avails nothing.
Yes, Reverend, but you see, since the Aboriginal democracy you are talking about cannot, happen overnight, and the interim government you are also talking about, it has to go through a process for you to achieve it. Who among the presidential candidates will you recommend, or are you going to support in 2023?
I am not going to support an election in the first place. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I am saying that to proceed to an election in 2023 is a Sisyphean quest. It's seeking to embrace an elusive phantom. You are seeking to apprehend a transient mirage. It's not going to happen. You're just wasting your time and your energy. Because these people, as much as they would desire, are already incapacitated by the Constitution. And so any true Nigerian, because there are so many people who are calling themselves Nigerians who are not really true Nigerians, that you live in Nigeria, you were born here, or that you have a Nigerian name does not really make you a Nigerian. To be a Nigerian, you have to have that Nigerian spirit. It's a nationalistic sentiment. And that's what I'm talking about. That in 2023, we must avoid another election because it's a waste of time and energy. We will achieve absolutely nothing. And our people will be worse off thereafter. And that's why I'm saying that while we have the time, we must come to a place where we can come together in an interim government to apply the principles of Aboriginal democracy, which is democracy of the people. True democracy that will eliminate political parties, will eliminate all of the patrician system, because what our democracy has done here is has established rich people in positions of authority. All the candidates are multimillionaires. To become a presidential candidate, you have to have a certain amount of money. That is not democracy. You see? So the oligarchy will support that, plutocracy will support that, but democracy is averse to it. And that's why I'm saying that if we are true Nigerians and we want to see harmony and we want to see unity, this is the time. We must do it now.
Yeah. Okay, you see, many people believe that clerics have no business being in politics. That clerics, they are men of God, they should preach, they should advise people. Now, here you are, a famous cleric, and you've been in politics for a very long time. How tough it is separating your calling and your partisanship?
I think that people who say that do not understand what it is to be a Christian or a Muslim or whatever it is that religion that you practice. Religion is personal to you. Nigeria is a secular state. What we're looking for is not politicians, leaders. And if your faith can create an ambience for you to practice true leadership, then it must be encouraged. I've often said that to see and embrace the Nigeria of our dreams, we must rise above the pastiche of religion, above the mosaic of ethnicity to an altitude where these cleavages diminish to mere superficial lacerations in the terrain of national integration. If we're going to be true Nigerians, we must not come into a place of religious parochialism or provincialism, because that is not going to help us. That is why people are concerned about a Muslim ticket or a Christian ticket, because of the religiosity that we have experienced. where people are no longer thinking as Nigerians, but are thinking as, religious bigots. So I am saying here that one of the reasons why I can sit here today and talk to you about Nigeria is because my faith compels me to make the necessary contribution to salvage my nation. You see, it is a responsibility that I owe to him before whom I stand. Because God is the creator of all things, and he expects that if I'm a servant of God, I will stand with him to make sure that the Nigerian people do not suffer, but enter into a place of prosperity and unity. So I think that people who talk about religion and who bring religion into the fray are men of very, very low intellectual estate, and because they recognize that if they don't play the religious card, they will become politically irrelevant. But aboriginal democracy will erase all of this political aberration.
Okay, do you have any fears ahead of the 2023 elections? Because just today in Ogun State, INEC office was attacked. Yesterday, a presidential candidate claimed that he was attacked. So people are not really discussing issues. Do you have any fears over what is happening in the political scene?
Definitely. The signs are very clear. They indicate to us that the system has failed. The political system has failed. These are the inevitable concomitants of a failed system. When you telescope these things into the system, it will be so clear to you that the system itself has failed. And so if you are seeing people becoming violent, or some of the claims that some of these people are making, it's because the polity is become pyrogenic, is overheated. And people are they are resentful towards the status quo. That is why 2023 should not be encouraged. Because if we go along this path and we go to February for elections, we're just going to see a greater level of crisis. Because nobody is going to be satisfied with whatever that outcome is. And that is the truth. And that is because Nigeria has become so polarized and balkanized. So if we're going to heal our nation at this time, we must provide a solution that would be a national palliative, that will make Nigerians think Nigeria now, not political parties. So that when we have that, our national anthem will no longer just be a song, but it will become our triumphant canticle. It will become the mantra of our solemnities. It will become the irresistible summons of our deepest solidarities. Because we believe in a Nigeria that we are all part of. And that is what I am advocating. That we must do the needful and look beyond partisan lines and look beyond religion and beyond ethnicity. And why am I asking to be leader? Because I've not been a part of the problem. You cannot bring someone who is a part of the problem to head a solution-making mechanism. I've never been a part of PDP and APC. Now that is not to say that all of the people who are within these parties are opposed to the Nigerian cause. But I'm saying, look at PDP, for instance. The umbrella of PDP has undergone a systematic discoloration and perforation and become hazardous to those who seek to recline under a shadow. On the other hand, the APC that is wielding a broom that is emblematic of sanitization has swept itself into a conundrum. Because the broom itself is not a clinical prophylactic. It cannot prevent disease and contamination. So there are problems in both areas, both sides. That is why you need someone who has not been a part of the problem, who has shown devotion to this nation all through these years. If I wanted to be a part of the bandwagon, I would have joined them. And I would have been at the top now in the hierarchy of the political parties. But I've always known that this system is faulty ab initio. And that the time is going to come when Nigeria is going to require my services. And they will judge by that which I have done. I always say that I've paid my dues, denominated in resilience and tenacity. And I've committed myself.
In 1 minute, you are a televangelist and you use the social media a lot. And INEC says that the youth form bulk of the next set of voters. How much are you engaging them to actually understand some of your concept and to key into it and to make a difference in 2023?
We are doing that now with what we call the conversational level, where we're talking to each other. Nigerians are having conversation as to the viability of this project, how we can transmute from the present regime into an interim government. You know, I always tell people that INEC by itself can never be truly independent. because INEC is a quango. You know, that word is a Quango. A quango is an institution established by government to oversee an area of public service and to develop it, and has its remuneration from the government. As long as the government continues to pay INEC, it can never truly be independent. So that's another problem that Aboriginal democracy will take care of. We won't have an INEC. I believe that the young people must understand that you're not going to win an election through social media. If you're going to win an election, it must start from the grassroots. And the major political parties, PDP and APC, are very grounded all across the nation. They have structures that no other political parties have, and that is being realistic. So if they truly want change, it cannot be through the ballot box, because you cannot beat PDP and APC. And I'm not being pessimistic, I'm being realistic. That is the absolute truth, because they've been in governance for many, many years. And this sudden change that is being desired needs time before it can fructify. And we don't have enough time for another political party to unseat either the APC or the PDP. And that is talking political frankness. That is not to discourage our young people. But I'm saying they must lend their voices to an interim government so we can actually embrace true democracy and bring the change that we have so desired.
Oh, thank you very much, Reverend Chris Okoti, for your different perspective, entirely different perspective on how we should try and get it right in Nigeria. We thank you for being on the program, and we hope to have you again next time so that you shed more light on what you think is right for Nigeria. Viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of the program. Hoping you enjoy it, and do stay with us for another edition tomorrow. Thank you for now. I'm Hamza Idris.